Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're diving into, well, maybe a market you don't think about every day.
Right.
The global market for rubber-lined pipes.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some really interesting data here from Cognitive Market Research. Our mission, really, is to get behind these numbers.
Yeah, see what's actually going on.
Exactly. What's driving things, where the trends are heading, over the next decade or so.
And it's one of those critical components that just works away unseen, isn't it?
Totally.
Think about the really tough jobs in industry, like moving abrasive stuff in mining.
Right. The slurries and things.
Yeah, or handling corrosive chemicals, processing wastewater, your standard pipes. They just wouldn't cope for long.
No chance.
So these rubber-lined pipes are essential. That lining, it gives them that crucial resistance. Abrasion, corrosion, you name it.
Makes them last way longer.
Dramatically longer, yeah.
It sounds super specific, but looking at this data, it's not a tiny niche market at all, is it?
Not even close. I mean, look at the overall trajectory the source lays out. Globally, back in 2021, it was already worth over $1 billion.
Look at this. $1,250.5 million.
Yeah, $1.25 billion for pipes.
Puts it in perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's not static. Projections show it hitting $1,520 million by 2025.
Okay.
And then looking further out, the forecast for 2033, it's around $245.7 million. So well over $2 billion.
Wow. So a pretty clear climb upwards over the next 10 years or so. What are the main things pushing that growth?
The source points to basically three main global drivers. First, you've got more infrastructure development, especially in emerging markets.
Building out the basics.
Exactly. They need tough pipes. Second, more mineral extraction. Mining, as we said, is really harsh on equipment. Rubber lining is almost, well, a must-have there.
Makes sense.
And third, there's just more demand for chemically resistant pipes in water treatment. Population growth, tighter environmental rules,
Right.
that all feeds into it.
Okay, yeah, those are fundamental needs. Building, resources, water. But the global picture, it's made up of different regional stories, right? The data shows they vary quite a bit. Let's maybe start with North America.
Sure. North America, it held a pretty significant chunk of the market back in 2021.
How much are we talking?
The value there was $351.4 million, and it's forecast for steady growth. Should hit $415 million by 2025, and the projection for 2033 is $588.4 million.
And what's the story behind the demand there? What's pushing it in North America specifically?
According to the source, it's largely about modernization, upgrading older mining operations, swapping out for more durable stuff.
Improving existing systems.
Yeah, and also expanding and upgrading wastewater treatment plants. So maybe less about brand new builds compared to some other regions and more about enhancing what's already there.
And within North America, it looks like the U.S. is the big player.
Oh, definitely. The U.S. market alone was, $290.8 million in 2021. Expected to grow to $341.8 million in 2025, and then $481.6 million by 2033. That worked out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of about 4.4%.
Right. And just quickly, CAGR, that's the average growth each year, smoothed out, gives us the overall trend line.
Exactly that. It kind of irons out the yearly bumps and shows the underlying momentum.
Got it. And Canada and Mexico, they're part of that North American picture too.
There, yeah, just on a smaller scale. Canada's market is shown growing from $37 million in 21 to about $65.5 million by 33.
Okay.
And Mexico, $23.5 million up to $41.2 million in the same period.
Okay, interesting. Let's hop over to Europe then. How does that region compare?
Europe's another really substantial market. It was valued at $326 million in 2021,
Right.
moving towards $358.7 million in 2025, and projected to hit $523.3 million by 2033. So over $500 million there too.
And the drivers there, similar to North America.
A bit different, actually. The source suggests it leans more heavily on industrial upgrades, sure, but also critically meeting those really stringent environmental standards.
Ah, okay. Compliance is big.
Especially with water systems, yeah. Regulations seem to be a major factor.
And who are the leaders in Europe?
Germany stands out. Its market's projected to grow from $52.4 million in 2021 up to $95.8 million by 2033.
Okay. Significant.
And the UK is also a major contributor, growing from $33.6 million to about $60.2 million.
Any surprises within Europe? Pockets of faster growth, maybe?
Well, this is kind of interesting. France shows a solid CAGR, 4.4%. Spain, 4.6%. Pretty good. But the category labeled Rest of Europe, combining lots of smaller economies,
Yeah.
that collective segment actually shows a really promising 5.3% CAGR. It's forecast to grow from $76 million in 21 to $142.3 million by 33.
But hang on, the collective growth rate for those smaller European countries is actually higher than the global average you mentioned?
Yeah, slightly higher than the overall 5% global figure.
What does the source suggest is behind that? That seems counterintuitive almost.
Well, it suggests that the trend of industrial upgrades and environmental investment isn't just concentrated in the giants like Germany or the UK.
Right. It's broader.
Exactly. It seems to be happening pretty actively across the continent. The individual markets might be smaller, but the rate of adoption, maybe replacing older systems, seems quite strong when you group them together.
Huh. That's fascinating. Suggests a deeper current than just the big names.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Let's shift focus to the region that's really, well, running away with it in terms of growth, Asia-Pacific.
Oh, absolutely. Asia-Pacific is positioned as the fastest growing market, full stop, and it's expected to add the biggest chunk of absolute value globally.
It was already the largest region in 2021.
It was $463.3 million back then, growing to $566.2 million by 2025, and then projected to make this huge leap to $877 million by 2033.
Wow. Nearly $1 billion just in Asia-Pacific, almost doubling its size from 2021. What's the overall CAGR for the region?
A really robust 5.6%, so clearly outpacing that global average.
And within the region, China, obviously.
China's the giant, yeah. Its market is forecast to rise significantly, from $198.9 million in 2021 to $380.9 million by 2033. Massive increase.
And I saw India mentioned with even stronger growth rate.
That's right. India is highlighted in the source as having, well, the strongest individual country growth momentum anywhere, an impressive 6.1% CAGR.
6.1%.
Yeah. Its market is expected to pretty much double, from $82.9 million in 21 to $168.4 million by 33.
That's a huge jump. Does the report give specific reasons why India is seeing that kind of
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
jump? Does the report give specific reasons why India is seeing that kind of explosive growth, even compared to China's rate?
It doesn't drill down into, say, specific government initiatives, but that high CGR strongly implies just massive ongoing investment in core industries.
Like mining infrastructure.
Exactly. Mining, infrastructure, water treatment. It really suggests a phase of rapid industrial build-out and modernization is happening there.
Right. Driving demand for durable stuff like these pipes at a really accelerated pace.
That seems to be the story the numbers tell. A combination of scale and just rapid development.
Makes sense. Any other key contributors in Asia-Pacific?
Yeah, Japan, South Korea, Australia, they contribute steadily. And Southeast Asia is also noted as a, significant growing segment. Countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam.
Right.
That cluster is projected to expand from about $68.4 million in 21 to $124 million by 33.
So, Asia-Pacific clearly the powerhouse, both in current size and where the fastest growth is happening. Okay, moving on. Latin America. What's the picture there?
Latin America represents a smaller market, definitely, compared to, say, Asia-Pacific or North America.
Right.
But the data shows it's on a strong upward path. Brazil leads the way there. Projected to grow from $27.8 million in 2021 to $61.4 million by 2033.
And where's the demand coming from in Latin America? Similar drivers.
Seems like it. The report mentions countries like Argentina, Colombia, Peru, Chile.
Right, big mining countries.
Exactly. They contribute significantly, primarily reinforcing that need for pipes and mining and also chemical processing. Resource extraction is key there.
Okay, and finally, the Middle East and Africa region. What does the source tell us about that market?
This region's market is relatively smaller, again, in global terms. Still notable, though.
What's lower growth?
Yeah, the data points to slower growth rates compared to other regions. KGRs are sort of in the 3% to 3.6% range.
Okay.
By 2033, key contributions are projected from Egypt hitting around $10 million, Turkey $8.9 million, and the rest of the Middle East combined maybe $14.6 million.
And the reasons cited for that slower pace?
The source mainly puts it down to a more limited pace of industrial base expansion, certainly compared to Asia-Pacific, and it also notes some macroeconomic constraints impacting investment across the region.
Okay. So if we pull all these regional threads together, we've got North America focused on modernization, Europe driven by environmental rules, Asia-Pacific booming, Latin America and MEA growing but at different speeds. What's the kind of big picture takeaway from all this data?
Well, the synthesis in the report really highlights Asia-Pacific as the main engine of growth, driven by that large-scale industrialization.
Right.
North America's steady growth comes from essential upgrades and those regulatory drivers, especially wastewater.
Mm-hmm.
And Europe sees consistent adoption, heavily influenced by environmental policies pushing improvements. It paints a picture of a market that's just fundamentally tied to global industrial activity.
Okay, so zooming back out then,
Yeah.
why should you, our listener, care about something as specific as rubber-lined pipes? I mean, what's the relevance here?
Well, it really boils down to the critical job these pipes do. Think about those industries, again, mining, chemical processing, water treatment. These are sectors that, you know, get us resources, make essential goods, keep our water clean.
Foundational stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the pipes they use are under constant attack from really harsh materials. That rubber lining, it isn't just a nice extra.
It's crucial.
It's essential tech. It dramatically extends the life and reliability of those pipelines. It stops leaks, cuts down on costly breakdowns and downtime.
Minimizes environmental risks too, presumably.
Definitely. So tracking the growth in this market, it's kind of like taking the pulse of these vital global sectors. It shows the level of health and investment going into them.
Right. They're like the tough veins and arteries of heavy industry, a hidden layer of resilience that keeps things running.
That's a good way to put it. It's all about operational longevity, efficiency, especially when conditions are tough.
Okay, so wrapping it up, we've seen a global market already over $1.2 billion, projected to nearly double to over $2.2 billion by 2033. Growth fueled by really fundamental global needs infrastructure, getting resources, protecting the environment. Asia-Pacific is leading that chart.
It's a clear growth leader.
North America and Europe showing steady growth, driven by upgrades and policy. Other regions contributing based on their industrial activity.
That captures the main takeaways from the data pretty well, I think.
So here's maybe something interesting to think about as you go about your day. Given that this market for rubber-lined pipes is tied so directly to heavy industry, to infrastructure development, essential services like water, things that need huge long-term investment, what does this consistent multi-decade growth forecast we've been talking about, what does it really tell us about the underlying confidence, the future direction of the global industrial landscape? Is this data basically pointing towards continued, pretty robust expansion in the fundamental physical backbone of the world economy? Okay, let's dive in. Today we're looking at something that might seem a bit niche, but it's actually vital for some massive global industries. We're talking about the market for rubber-lined pipes.
Right. It's one of those things hidden away in big industrial plants, you know. But honestly, without them, a lot of heavy industry just wouldn't run properly or safely.
Exactly. And we've got some great insights here from Cognitive Market Research to help us unpack it. So our mission for this deep dive is, well, to get into the nitty-gritty. What's driving growth? What challenges are popping up? And maybe most interesting, what's new and innovative?
Yeah, starting with why they're so important. What makes them special?
Good question.
Fundamentally, it boils down to how they perform in really harsh conditions. Think extreme durability, serious chemical resistance, and they just last a long time where regular metal pipes would fail fast.
Okay, so they're tough.
Yeah.
And the source material points to some major global forces pushing demand, right? Where's the biggest push coming from?
Without a doubt, the main engine is mineral processing and mining.
Mining. Why specifically?
Well, think about the global demand for minerals, copper, iron ore, lithium for all the batteries, rare earths. It's huge. And mining operations, they deal with incredibly abrasive slurries.
Slurries. So, like ground up rock mixed with water or chemicals.
Exactly. Sometimes it's like liquid sandpaper going through the pipes, plus often corrosive stuff mixed in too.
Right. A standard steel pipe wouldn't last long against that.
Not at all. The rubber lining acts as a sort of sacrificial layer. It resists that internal wear, that erosion, far better than bare metal. It's not just about stopping leaks, you know?
It's about keeping the whole operation running.
Precisely. Less downtime, much more reliability. And in mining, unplanned downtime costs a fortune. So that reliability is, well, it's critical.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a direct link from the pipe material to the mine's bottom line.
Absolutely. But it's not just mining, is it?
No, not only mining. Where else are these essential?
You find them a lot in chemical processing and water treatment facilities, too.
Okay. Different kind of challenge there.
Yeah. In those sectors, the pipes face a whole cocktail of highly corrosive chemicals. Often the pressure inside fluctuates, too.
And Regular metal pipes, even strong ones, can corrode pretty fast with certain acids or uh, alkaline solutions.
They really can. So here, the rubber lining isn't so much about abrasion, it's more about being chemically inert. Specific rubber compounds can handle aggressive chemicals for years. Metal might fail in months.
Wow, months versus years. That's significant.
Huge. It means fewer replacements, lower maintenance risk for workers dealing with hazardous stuff, and just a much longer life for the whole piping system.
Okay, so minerals chew them up, chemicals eat them away. Rubber lining protects against both. Does geography matter here? Is growth concentrated anywhere?
It does play a role. The research highlights a lot of demand driven by infrastructure expansion, particularly in emerging economies.
Like where?
Think Asia Pacific, the Middle East, parts of Latin America. They're investing heavily.
Investing in what kind of projects?
Big stuff. New refineries, expanded water management systems, energy infrastructure. As these regions build out, they need piping that's tough, handles local conditions, and is cost-effective over the long term.
Right. And maybe especially if these facilities are a bit remote, getting maintenance crews out there could be tough.
Exactly. Reliability becomes even more crucial then. Rubber-lined pipes offer that sort of long-term, robust performance with less need for constant checkups.
So putting it all together, the demand isn't just niche. It's really tied to fundamental global stuff.
Yeah.
Needing more raw materials, dealing with complex industrial processes, and just building more big infrastructure worldwide.
Yeah, it's a basic component, sure, but one that's becoming increasingly vital. It's interesting how different problems moving rock slurry versus handling wastewater find the same solution.
So what does this mean for you listening?
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Wastewater find the same solution.
So what does this mean for you listening? If you're involved in designing or running facilities in mining, chemicals, heavy infrastructure, well, it shows these sectors are growing. And the core needs resistance to nasty stuff, reliability, they're global priorities. Understanding this helps you see where investment and operational focus are heading.
Definitely. But, while growth is strong, it's not all smooth sailing. There are hurdles.
Ah, okay. The other side of the coin. What's the first big challenge the source points out?
The immediate one is usually the upfront cost. These pipes aren't cheap to buy, and installing them isn't simple either.
Why so expensive initially?
Well, making them requires real precision. You need specific rubber formulas, applying the lining, that's often labor-intensive, skilled work, and then there's rigorous quality control. Got to make sure there are no flaws.
Sounds almost like a craft process in some ways.
A little bit, yeah. And then putting them in place, installation that needs its own trained technicians, careful handling, perfect alignment. It all has to follow strict standards.
So that cost and complexity, that could put off smaller companies or projects on a tight budget.
It definitely can. Compared to just, say, welding standard steel pipes, it's a bigger initial investment and needs more specialized know-how.
Okay. Cost and skills. What about the actual performance? Any limits?
A key technical one is heat. Rubber generally doesn't like high temperatures. Its thermal resistance is, well, relatively low compared to metal.
So if the fluid inside gets too hot, the lining just breaks down.
Pretty much. High heat degrades the rubber quite quickly, so that makes these pipes unsuitable for things like steam lines and power plants or certain petrochemical processes with superheated fluids.
Ah, I see. So it limits their scope.
Definitely. They're fantastic for abrasion and corrosion at moderate temperatures, but you can't use them everywhere, especially where it gets really hot.
Good to know. They have their sweet spot.
Exactly. And speaking of limits, there's also growing competition.
Oh, competition from what? Other types of pipes?
Yeah, alternative materials are making inroads. Things like polymer-lined pipes, fiberglass reinforced plastic FRP pipes, and even ceramic-coated pipes are being used more.
And what advantages do those offer? Why choose them instead?
While some handle heat better, others are much lighter, which can make installation easier. And many also promise a long service life.
So they aren't replacing rubber line pipes across the board, but they're carving out niches where rubber struggles. Like maybe with the heat issue?
That's a good way to put it. They compete effectively where, say, thermal stability is the top priority, or maybe weight is a big factor, or perhaps a specific chemical resistance profile is needed that they offer. It definitely pressures the rubber-lined pipe makers.
Right. It forces them to focus on where their product truly excels.
Yeah.
So these challenges cost, heat limits, competition. They aren't killing the market, but they define its edges and drive the need for innovation.
And think about why you should care about a pipe's heat limit or installation cost. If you're in project management or specifying materials, these constraints directly impact your choices, your budgets, your timelines, and ultimately, the safety and performance of systems you might oversee. Knowing the limits is as crucial as knowing the strengths.
That's a great point. But it's not just about limitations, right? The source also talks about innovation. Things are moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. It's not a static market at all. One really interesting area is the development of custom rubber blends.
Custom blends, you mean like tailor-made linings for specific jobs?
Pretty much. Manufacturers are going beyond just standard rubber. They're engineering linings for very specific needs, like maybe tweaking natural rubber for maximum abrasion resistance in really tough mining slurries.
Or using synthetic rubbers.
Exactly. Using synthetics like neoprene or EPDM blends maybe to handle specific chemicals or extreme pH levels where standard rubber wouldn't cut it.
Huh. So instead of one size fits all, you get a lining optimized for your exact nasty chemical mix or abrasive material.
That's the goal, and it really broadens the potential applications, lets them compete in more areas.
Smart. What other trends are showing up?
There's also a definite push towards more sustainable manufacturing.
The green angle, driven by regulations and corporate ESG targets.
You got it. There's more interest in using recyclable or reusable rubber compounds for the linings. As industries everywhere try to reduce their environmental impact, they're looking at their supply chains, including components like pipes.
So pipes that last longer or use greener materials are becoming more attractive.
Definitely. If it reduces waste or means fewer replacements over the facility's lifetime, that's a big plus for many companies now.
Okay, better materials, greener materials.
Yeah.
What else? Anything with tech?
Yes, and this could be really transformative. It's the integration of smart monitoring technologies.
Smart tech in a pipe. How does that work? Sensors?
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Embedding sensors that can track the lining's condition in real time. They could detect subtle wear or changes in pressure, or maybe even early signs of degradation before you'd ever see it from the outside.
Wow, okay. That sounds way better than just waiting for a leak or doing periodic manual checks.
It's a potential game changer. It shifts maintenance from being reactive fixing breaks to being predictive. You schedule upkeep based on the actual condition.
Preventing failures before they happen.
Exactly. That means less unexpected, expensive downtime.
Yeah.
It can extend the life of really costly infrastructure. And for plants handling hazardous fluids, the boost in safety and reliability is just enormous.
So the innovation is happening in the material science, in sustainability, and in making the pipes themselves smarter. This isn't just about basic plumbing anymore.
No, it's becoming a much more sophisticated part of the whole industrial setup.
And think about how those smart technologies could impact operations you're familiar with. Imagine getting real-time data on your critical pipelines. How does that change maintenance schedules, your risk assessments, maybe even insurance? It makes you view that pipe very differently, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It goes from being just a passive tube to an active data-providing asset.
So we've journeyed from the core purpose of these rubber-lined pipes through the big global trends pushing demand, tackled the real challenges of cost, temperature, and competition, and landed on these exciting frontiers: custom materials, sustainability, smart tech.
Yeah, it really shows how, even for something seemingly simple like a pipe, there's a lot going on underneath complex markets, critical engineering, and constant innovation.
Definitely leaves you thinking. With material science advancing so fast, and this integration of monitoring and data, how might the whole idea of industrial piping change in the coming years? Will pipes become less about just carrying stuff and more about sensing, reporting, maybe even adapting somehow? That's something to really chew on as industries keep evolving.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.